This is the Roller Coaster Podcast. We are here to help you be empowered and renew your sense of purpose as a midlife mom. This is your time to redefine and reclaim your power as a woman. Just because our kids are getting older doesn't mean that our lives still don't have crazy twists, turns, ups and downs. And that's not to mention what our hormones are doing. We're navigating helping our kids plan their next chapters while quietly wondering, what the heck does my next chapter look like? My name is Lucy Q, wife, mom, podcaster, and journaling mentor. This is a crazy time in your life, but you are not alone. So I'm inviting you to throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby. Roller coaster. I wanna ride. Roller coaster. Life is like.
Welcome to the roller coaster. I'm your host, Lucy Q. Do you ever find yourself repeating the same mistakes or being stuck in the same cycles and behavioral patterns? You may have tried hard to will yourself to change, but with no luck. Midlife is the perfect time to reflect on our journey so far and decide how we want to live the next part. This is a time for us to choose our own adventure. But we also know that if we keep doing what we've always done, we're going to get what we've always got. So, how do we break these old patterns that we've been lugging around for decades? And how do we actually become who we're dreaming of being? Joining me today is Victoria Rader, also known as Vica, possibility coach, transformational speaker, founder of U2 Sunshine, internationally best-selling author of Prosper Me, the 35 Universal Laws to Make Money Work for You, and 3 other books, creator of the Empower Me and Master Me apps, and founder of the Free Me EFT and Quantum Freedom. Welcome, Vica.
Thank you so much, Lucy. I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, man, I sound so busy. I have 2 more best-selling books that I have to update. And I don't want my bio to overwhelm anybody, because what it doesn't say is over several decades of struggle and strife and roller coaster rides, she has finally summited to this. I think we should add it.
And I'm so glad you brought that up, because we do that. We look at where somebody is now and we forget everything that they've been through to get to this point. And sure, reading your bio, it has a very impressive list of accomplishments, but I did fail to include the other things, all those things, those struggles, because where we are is built on where we've come from and those lessons that we've learned. So can you maybe share a little bit about what brought you to this point and how maybe midlife has impacted your direction?
I think I want to start by the greatest insight that hopefully will fire all us up is that life starts at 49. Okay, so if
Thank
you're
you.
not quite 49 yet, just wait a little and the life will unfold for you and through you as well. So there you go. Life starts at 49. And we'll talk about why I say that, but it truly starts every single moment of every single day. Our cells, we have biologically millions of cells that die out. So we're never the same person biologically. And interesting enough, we're never the same person emotionally. And what builds up from minute to minute to minute creates us. And for me, it's been quite a buildup. I was born in the former Soviet Union, where there wasn't a concept of freedom of choice or of freedom as such. And the greatest gift from being born in a country, and we see that, Russia has inherited a lot of the mindset of that. Not all of Russia. Some of my closest friends are incredible Russian people, but the need to control the situation at any cost, including human life, because I think I know what's best for you, so I'm going to dictate it, right? Every dictator is motivated by what they think is best for the rest of the world. Just something to think about. So I was born with a dictator mindset. All of us might have the shadow of a dictator mindset, because I constantly caught myself that I assumed that I knew what was best for those around me. Just a point of awareness, and So for me, the growth from that mindset is responsible for everything I have done and achieved in my life. Of when I would say, wait a minute, maybe, just maybe, my husband is a grown man and he can make his own choices. What an idea! What an earth-shattering idea. And so, but that's the journey that has brought me to saying, wait a minute, how do I create a platform that allows people to be so focused on fulfilling their own life that they can be free from need to control others because they're not living their passion. I find the cause of control is I am not fulfilled. So I'm going to dictate somebody else's fulfillment. So that's kind of the synapse of
Ooh,
the journey.
that one kind of gets you in the old mother heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you kind of go like, yeah, I can see how we've done that as mothers, is that, but we've always had that responsibility of
Yeah.
having to keep it all together and to manage everyone. And, and over time, a lot of us take on that concept that we are responsible
Yeah.
for other people's actions, other people's feelings, and it gets exhausting.
It is exhausting. And very quickly, all of us realize that in a great scheme of things, it is pointless and energy draining. I love to observe two people that are very set in their political views. That's my best entertainment, to just watch.
Break out the popcorn.
Right. The two people, and you understand that they stand no chance of convincing each other. And so it's an extreme of observing that. But I think the only way we ever impact anybody into change is by completely accepting them as they are and making it so safe for them to see themselves for who they are and realize that they can still be loved as they are, that they come out of their own shelf and there's sacred space to change. And that patience, that kind of patience of creating space, I think is the lifetime journey. And I think that's what we're here to do and to learn. People look at accomplishments and accolades, and it sometimes frustrates me because I know the truth is that everything I've done is highly irrelevant, but the one thing of who I am becoming through it. And our world is so focused on what it is that we do that we forget that the only reason for anything we do is the final product of who are we becoming. And so when I look at somebody who is actually a stay-home mom hero who tells me I'm just a mom, I just have to sit myself down and say, never ever say that. That is desecrating the sacred role that you've been empowered with, you know?
And that concept of who am I becoming, it's not one that I even began to entertain or was in even in my realm of knowledge or of possibility until I hit, until I realized I was starting to hit this sort of midlife cycle at 45. And
Yeah.
certainly what you're saying about, life is really beginning at 49. I get that. Didn't get it back then. But I look at my own journey over the last 5 years, and there are many aspects of what you just shared that I've learned and had to incorporate into my life and make those shifts and make those changes, which is why I can say, yeah, I get it. Why
Mm.
49 is where it starts. But I can't help but wonder if I hadn't, I mean, I hit rock bottom, absolute rock bottom. And I can't help but wonder if I hadn't hit that point and come out of it the way that I did and made the realizations, I wouldn't have learned what I've learned, and where would I be today? And those are the women that I'm thinking about, is the ones, let's go back to who I was 5 years ago. What did I need to know, and what did I need to learn and share in order to start making those shifts so that, you are becoming who you want to be?
Years ago, I had a client who came to me, and I've shared this particular story often because it just fired me up in a different direction. She said, I'm struggling to commit because I'm so overburdened with commitment. Every time I commit to something or someone, it just wears me out. And I started saying, well, I was going to give a practical steps of following through with commitment. And what came through me was very humbling for both of us, because I said, wait a minute, you're already incredibly committed. You're just committed to your scared self. And so that gave the beginning to understanding of our nature as humans, that all of us have this scared part of us, all of us, and all of us have a sacred part of us, one that is there to prevent us into survival and to need to hit the rock bottom to prove to itself that, see, I've survived, so maybe there is something more. That part is responsible for showing us more. And then there's the sacred part, or the potential of who we are, or the light of who we are, or the inner knowing, whether you call it the spirit or the high self, or the energy that flows through you. That sacred part is here to say, you're worthy of so much more. You have come to be the light to so many. And there's this conflict between the two. And the first seven, I call them the first 7 cycles. So, and we'll talk about that. 49 years divided by 7 is 7 years of a cycle, where the conflict between sacred and scared gets formed more and more and more, shifting towards the sacred. When you look at the two words, you will realize that they're the same letters, with letter C being shifted. And so, of course, I love words. So I say it's the shift of commitment that for most of us takes 7 years. So the first 7 is a physical formation of the body. The body functions, the sheer survival. The next 7 is going to be the emotions. The hormones are starting to be balanced. By 14, we're at the peak of the mess. We say that's when teenage starts. Oh no, that's when the emotion is formed, so that it starts running through us to find and create patterns. The next 7 are mental patterns, right? We are learning how our brain is working in the new brainwave. So physically formed, emotionally formed, mentally formed. Then there's a cause. We seek for causes for our life. And then there's the formation of our expression of who we are. And then there comes the sight, the foresight of where we want to go, and finally the connection with our purpose. So by 49, we've gone through 7 years. So what happens 7 times, what happens for all of us, if that scared self was not healed, it will repeat itself every 7 years with a new pattern until we finally hit the rock bottom. So it's a pattern that we can trace and we can, dig into. But at the end of the day, remember, you are committed, and all you're doing every moment of every day saying, how do I shift from scared me to sacred me? How do I make this decision, shifting from scared me to sacred me? And just that question is very empowering.
That makes so much sense.
Mm.
Like, I can't even begin to explain all the sort of little things I have going on in my head that are like, okay, yeah, now I get it. Now I get it and I understand it. That, it's all about those 7 years. And really, when you get to, your 49th year, and that's what women are finding more and more. I'm talking to women, and they start feeling this change happening in them. And I guess that's in preparation for that, that end of that 7-year cycle, is that you feel it, this change going on, but it's not really talked about. When we think of midlife, for women, it comes down to menopause, and it's this list of symptoms that, you either have to be cured from, or you have to endure. And this whole spiritual shift, we'll call it, has been omitted from the conversations. And I think that's where the most confusion is coming for women right now, is because they feel it, they know it, but it goes against everything that they've carried this far. Yeah. That, I mean, certainly for myself, that's why I'm like, what is going on here? And then I went into that self-judgment, self-punishment, self-defeatment, all of that. And it just like that, it's no wonder I hit rock bottom.
But it's beautiful. Bottoms are there for a reason, to
And
bounce
that's
back.
it. I had to hit it. I always joke that I'm a slow learner, but when I get it, I get it. So sometimes, the universe has to hit me on the head really, really hard for me to realize. And I get that. And I joke about it now. I laugh about it now. And, I'm learning from it.
Mm.
It's like, oh, okay, that's why that happens.
It's there's just so much well, I have to say I work with energy, and there's so much kindness and compassion in you, Lucy. I just it's beautiful. It's just
Thank you.
beautiful. And I just feel that for every woman that is drawn to that kindness and compassion, because you've created a judgment-free zone. And just being in that space, I think, is healing. I think you're more of a healer than you realize, and I just wanted to validate that for you. So
Thank you. I have had other guests say that, I've always been in a capacity of a healer in all of my past lives, where it's always sort of been more on the tribal level, the community level. And I've even been persecuted for it in the past, which is probably the root of some of my fears now, stepping into what I'm stepping into. But this apparently is supposed to be the lifetime where I stop being like at that community level and I go onto the grand stage in the world. So
I believe that. And I think the less we force things, the more they unfold through us. So if there's a 24-year-old is tuning in all of a sudden because she is stuck in the car with her mom, I see you, girl. You can't force that, right? And you shouldn't. You should lean fully into the cycle you're in, because we've got to heal that survival part of us, the scared part of us, through each one of the cycle. So what happens for a lot of us, that first physical is all about physical survival. And yet that's when most of us are programmed that life is not safe,
yeah.
right? These the first 7 years are given us to say, I can be protected. It is safe for me to thrive. But that gets yanked from under our feet. Most abuse happens in that time, whether it is mental, emotional, physical, or sexual. The paradigm that the world is safe physically is taken away from us. So instead of having learned it is safe to be, now we're going to go to the emotional. It is safe to be loved. We say it's unsafe. And then we go to it's unsafe to be loved. And then we fall when we repeat that, because we repeat it all. Not only it's unsafe for us, we start creating all kinds of bizarro loving relationships that prove to us it's unsafe to be loved. And then formation of that, instead of it's safe to be loved, so I can think my world into reality, mental formation, we say it is unsafe to be loved, so I need to support it with damaging thought patterns. And so by 21, instead of the energy of creating love, creating miracles, we're fully wired to worry ourselves sick. And we're all masters. When people say, teach me how to manifest, I say, honey, you don't have to. You're a master. It's not how to manifest. It's what? It's just the awareness from you, everything around you, you have co-created. So how about we just shift what, not the how? And it's that awakening that you go through. And for a lot of us, we choose to not go through these cycles because we don't know how to go back to the basics of, well, if I've had anything to do for that, am I to blame for it? And it's very important to say, of course not. You were not responsible for abuse. You did not create it. It drives me crazy when somebody says my spirit chose it. No, your spirit chose a lesson of forgiveness to have been learned in the most. Your spirit chooses lessons, and then other people's choices co-create the environment for you. It's very important to not try to resolve the all age dilemma. Why would I choose to be abused? None of us do. We choose to learn forgiveness. So because we can't forgive ourselves, we then choose to create all these other relationships that are so much more obvious and harmful to us to learn to forgive.
And I can see myself, guilty as charged, creating those events, those relationships time after time, where I'm proving myself right, that I am not enough and that I'm not lovable. And it's not an easy process to go through, to start to look at yourself with that rawness and really acknowledge your role in certain things and, and accept it. But the power comes is when you realize that, well, if I created that and it was negative, then I can create something that's positive.
Mhm.
So how do we actually start to make that shift and swing things the other way?
Beautiful. The very first thing is in what you already said, right? Intuitively asked questions will always have an answer. And so you said accepted. Ironically or serendipitously, we just launched a little, very low price program where we do virtues every week that are associated with our event. Like I have this old app. It's called Master Dash Me. It's like $3, but it has 52 virtues. Long story short, last week we did, no, yes, excuse me, last night we did acceptance. So it's very fresh in my mind because if you look at the app, this week ends acceptance and next week starts belonging. So we're going with the app. And so it's acceptance. So the first step is acceptance. And a lot of people, this will be a huge, I'm so excited to share this. For a lot of us, we don't accept because we don't have definition of acceptance, because we think accepting means agreeing or condoning. So if I accept something, I agree with it, or I justify it, or I condone it. And accepting is not that. It's stepping out of denial into awareness. That's all it is. Acceptance is a process of stepping out of denial into awareness. So I often say this, if I hold, okay, not promo, it's just right by me. Miracle Me is one of journals. If I hold the Miracle Me journal and I'm pushing it to you, right, Lucy, and I say, Lucy, you must have it, you must have it, you must have it. You're gonna push back on it and say, I don't want it, I don't want it. And we are now, you're rejecting it, and we're now pushing it on both ends. And so pushing on it in rejection gets it stuck between us. And it drains both of us. Me pushing, I know it's good for you. You pushing back, I'm rejecting it. And that was good. But if it's bad, we push even harder. But if I push it to you and you say, I accept it, it gives you power to now hold it and put it back. So we accept so we can release. It's very powerful. Things you don't like in your life about you or others, accept them so you can do one of the three things. One, pause to respond. You accept so you can respond. And how do you respond? In the other two ways. You release it or you receive it. So a lot of us are rejecting and pushing back and create resentments because we think that if we accept somebody or something, we then have to agree and receive them. But no, we can accept a behavior so we can release it, and then we're free from it. So that's the first step. Accept things so you can respond by either releasing or receiving. So the second step is, how do you release or receive? You notice what you notice, because what you notice is what creates your life. What do I mean by that? You notice the questions you internally ask. Those questions are defining the direction of your path. So if something happens to you, notice how your internal conversation goes. If you ask, how could it happen to me? Why did it happen to me? The universe has no choice but to answer that question. And I'll demonstrate. I'm going to ask Lucy, what color are you thinking about?
Blue.
And you were not thinking about the color before I asked you that question.
Correct.
It's impossible for our subconscious mind not to answer the question. It's wired. So the concept ask and ye shall receive is not about things. It's about the concept of creation. If I'm asking, I'm going to be receiving. So your first step is, when something happens, what do you hear? Are you hearing, why is it so unfair? Because that's what you're asking for more unfair things. How could it happen to me? You're asking, give me more so I can see better. So the second you hear that pattern, you're going to say, wait a minute, if things are not going well, I'm going to say, what is the one thing I can do to make it better? That's your power shift. It's that easy. It's the question, what is the one thing I can do to make this better? It gets you out of happening to me to happening for me and through me, which is the empowerment. But what I see even more as things start going well for us, then the self-sabotage of the scared self goes, it can't possibly go on forever. And then when it sticks its ugly head, the second you have a breakthrough in your relationships, it goes, well, if I'm subconsciously, if I'm happy here, then my health must suffer, or my money must suffer. Like we have this bubble of performance. Heaven forbid I will be happy in all areas of your life. It's just not possible for us, right? That's why I say possibility coach. So when you have a moment of joy and gratitude over the smallest of things, that's very important, that moment, to ask a question: how much better can it get? Get your subconscious answering that. How much better can it get? Because I got to tell you, once it answers it for your health, for your finances, for your relationships, it'll have the luxury to answer it for your friends, for your town, for your country, and for this Mother Earth planet that needs you to make it better for her. So there is always room for how much better can it get. So those are the two shift questions that if you choose to notice what you ask and shift it to a better question, I promise you, you will start noticing miracles, that you will start pinching yourself and saying, where was this my whole life?
I'm going to make Post-it notes and stick those up because, that question, how much better can it get? We are pre-programmed to always look for how much worse it can get. And I mean, Lord knows we are living in the time where we should all be asking the question, how much better can it get? Because in a lot of cases, in a lot of countries, in a lot of communities, in a lot of homes, it's probably the worst we've seen it in generations.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to stay stuck there if we stay in that mentality. But really, to move forward, we have to find those shining lights, those beacons, those things that are going to draw us forward, pull us out of the storm, because it's a global shift that we have to make. And I think those two questions are so powerful.
Once again, I'll just go on your lead. Powerful beacon. We'll just go with that. News. One of my we have a ton of products we do. One of my personal, and here's what we've done, what I've done. Everything I ever do, I first do for me. I want something in my life. It's not there. I created for me. My team wants something I created for them. And so meditation is so important.
Yes.
But people are busy. And for years, I couldn't find guided, quick meditations. I know that 3 minutes is enough to reprogram one's mind. So, having done due diligence 10 years ago, I've created the first 3-minute meditations. And now we have an app that's called Empower-Me that has a ton of value, truly, but also has these 3-minute meditations. One of them is called Receiving Good News. And it goes so well with what you're saying, because what happens is that our mind is reprogrammed with common conscious beliefs. So common conscious belief states, no news is good news. Just think about it. We say no news is good news. So our 93 power mechanism that controls 93% of our mind, subconscious mind, says, oh, no news, good news, which means good news. No news. So we're not receiving any good news. So our brain, I have chills as I say it, is actually tuned up to be looking for, receiving, and magnifying bad news. And so that little 3-minute shift, if you do it every day for 2 or 3 days, it rewires your brain to tuning up to receiving good news. So that good news is good news and you're receiving it. So it reprograms you from no news, good news. So I have no news whatsoever that are good, but if something bad, somebody's going to reach out to me. And we're like robots. We don't have to have zombie apocalypse. We're living it. It's like, well, what's on the news today? Bad, 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 bad. Let me look at my bank. Bad, 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 bad. It's like, because so we are not seeking news. So we're hiding out. That little 3-minute shift is responsible for thousands of little testimonials where people say, wait a minute, I listened to it And all of a sudden, I got a phone call that I've been expecting for forever. And it's not that it created the phone call, it's just that it tuned you in to the frequency of reality where it's possible. We are energy, we are vibrating. It's not just woo-woo stuff that I love and thrive on. It's quantum physics. We are atoms, electrons, and protons. Electrons negatively charged, protons positively charged. Somebody's got to be in charge. We're either negatively charged or positively charged at all times, and we're vibrating towards one field or the other. That's just it. Yeah, so powerful 3 minutes meditation.
I
I'm
love
passionate
that.
about it.
Meditation has definitely been part of my transformation, for sure. And I do meditate for at least 10 minutes. I'll call it most days, but also journaling has been another extremely powerful tool. And, while you were sort of sharing that last part, I remember something that I said a while ago, and that's that we forget to remember the good that's out there, because that's sort of, our human selves are so conditioned that our spiritual side, it kind of the human side can drown out the spiritual side that has all of those memories of all of the good and the possibilities and what can be. And when we come here, we forget all of that. And we do have to tune back in so that we can remember that wisdom that we came here. And it's
Girl, you're freaking me out. Finish the thought and I'll tell you why.
it's these little things, and that's part of what I'm doing in everything that I'm doing right now. Is I don't have all the answers. I'm sharing. It's like you said, you create what you need because you need it first. And I'm driven by the person that hit rock bottom, and that one fatal day that I now, with the wisdom that I've gained, can look back and say, my darkest day became my greatest gift. That's why I'm here. And that's my fuel, my passion. That's why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. I don't have it all figured out. I can still be a hot mess at any old time. I can literally fall on my ass, which I did yesterday down the stairs, and ended up with this massive bruise on my backside. I'm human like everybody else, but I'm just being different by sharing as much, if it makes sense, sharing as much as I can to show that we're all in this together. I don't know if that makes any sense to you.
All of it makes all the sense to me. So I want to make 3 quick observations about that beautiful thing. Is, when I was showing this, and I'm so happy it's under my hand, all the me, the little M, big E, is for me, when I say I am me, it's a recipe for who we are as mortal matter that materially manifests. That is also eternal energy that essentially expands. That's who we are. That's the description of me. That human part that gets to roll down the stairs, a little M, and the E that laughs and says, I got you, girl, right? So that's the balance. But when you're describing your capacity to tune in and to remember who you are, I have chills all over my body, because right now, for years, I was asked to talk about mindset, growth mindset, success mindset, blah, 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 love it all. I finally sat down a few years back and I said, wait a minute, what is mindset? It's a good question to ask. I've been yapping about it for years. We've been growing it. What is it? And, I refer to the source of, I refer to God as creator, however you talk to great overall designer and source. And I have this spirit, making it so clear is that it's a mindset. So it's a set of 6 mental faculties that create reality: perception, how you receive reality; imagination, how you imagine it. Perception and imagination create a tuning fork, so you can be in tune, which is intuition. And then there is reason, memory, and will. So those are the 6 mental faculties. The fastest way to align yourself with a life of miracles is to develop those 6 mental faculties. One of the programs that I actually shift for people is going from I remember to forget and I forget to remember, to I remember to remember and I forget to forget. So it's just such alignment. So we are remembering to remember that we are the sacred self, and that we are here to create the life worthy of being the sacred self. And then we do have to heal, because the reason we're forgetting it is because there's so much in our life that is wounded and unhealed for the scared self, that the scared self says, I just want to forget it. So instead of saying, I just want to forget it, we want to say, I want to accept it so I can forgive it and heal it, so I can remember who I am. So I have chills as I say that, because I'm literally in the middle of finishing that program, and I'm going to do it free. That program is going to be offered free as a masterclass, but it just touched me how gorgeously attuned we are in this conversation. So
It never ceased to amaze me how these things come about. Now, as we wrap up today, Vica, is there any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with our listeners?
yes, I think the way the conversation has framed itself, I want to share this story that inspires me and gets me out of bed on those little M days, little human days, when I say forget it all, let's cuddle with a dog and stay in bed. And that story you might have heard, it's a popular story. And if you do, I always tell people that open your heart, because it comes from my heart and it'll come different. And this is 1400s. In 1400s in Italy, there is a sculptor whose name is Donatello. And Donatello is commissioned to carve a sculpture out of a huge slab of marble. He is given that marble. He studies the marble for months, and he says it's faulty, it has veins in it, and it rejects the marble. As he rejects the marble, saying it's, unworkable, 50 years later, another sculptor whose name is Michelangelo, out of that very slab of marble, carves what is arguably one of the most famous sculptures in the world, which is David. David stands in Florence now in open elements. I've been to Italy. It's just standing there gorgeous 500+ years later. So when his contemporaries ask Michelangelo, how could you possibly carve this magnificent sculpture out of this faulty marble? He says, I saw the angel in the marble, and I carved until I set him free. And so till my dying breath in this reality, I know that every soul I'm looking at is an angel, and just the level of marble around them might be different. I'm passionate in reminding that you were born to be free, that you were born to free your sacred self, that you were born to choose sacred, that you were born to create a life of miracles. So that's the story. And the gift I was going to share was the free meditation that you can get at choosesacred.me. And that's the 6-minute meditation shifting from scared to sacred. But because we've brought this into conversation, the free masterclass that I was talking about, mindset, if it interests someone, it's going to be at manifestmiracles.me. So those are the two parting thoughts as the free tools to help you remember that you're an angel and be free.
Beautiful. I love it. To connect with Vica and to get these free resources that she's just told us about, make sure you check out the show notes. I will have all of the links in there. And remember, if you're feeling lost, stuck, and confused in midlife, grab a copy of my guided journal, Your Journaling Journey. It's packed full of tools and resources to help you find clarity, guided prompts, affirmations, and gratitude. You can get Your Journaling Journey on Amazon. Thank you to all of my listeners, and thank you, Vica, for joining me today.
Thank you so much. What a special journey indeed. I'll get that journal.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creative.
Life is like